Naoto is your average nobody. Nothing special going on in his life. And to top it off, he's still bitter about the first girl he ever fell for, who shot him down without a second thought. But everything changes when he somehow ends up with the most popular girl in school, making his ex so jealous she'd do anything to get him back. It all starts with Satsuki, his childhood best friend, the girl who spent every waking hour by his side, who one day randomly trashes his garden and vanishes without a word. 6 years go by, Naoto's parents pass away, and he relocates to Tokyo, where he moves in with his little sister. Then one day at school, Yukari, the girl he's absolutely gone for, approaches him and invites him to a club meeting. Naoto feels like he just hit the lottery, but turns it down anyway, because he has to look after his sister. He heads home, cooks dinner for the two of them, and Suzushiro, the little gremlin, compliments his questionable cooking with the energy of someone doing a favor. Still, the two of them manage a peaceful meal. The next morning, he ties Suzushiro's hair, gets her all put together, and walks her to school. On the way, he gets the feeling someone's tailing them, but brushes it off even as the creeping sensation on the back of his neck refuses to quit. The mystery stalker keeps popping up throughout the day until Naoto finally discovers it's Satsuki, who, without a shred of shame, rolls up saying she's so happy they ran into each other again. Naoto is not in the mood for a reunion and makes it very clear he hasn't forgiven her. When he tries to leave, Satsuki bear hugs him from behind with enough force to crack a rib. Naoto's response? He rockets out of there at Mach speed. When he gets home, Suzushiro asks for help with their new garden, so the two of them head out back to check on it. That's when Satsuki shows up holding a shovel, and Naoto immediately tells her she can leave before she destroys everything again. But Satsuki shoves him to the ground and kisses him, so intensely that he literally passes out like someone who's never been within 10 feet of another person. And because the universe has it out for him personally, Yukari shows up at that exact moment. She'd stopped by to drop off some club notes and catches them both on the ground, mid-situation. The next day, while Naoto is trying to apologize to Yukari for missing yet another club meeting, Satsuki appears and, completely out of nowhere, grabs Yukari's chest, curious whether Naoto actually has that preference. Yukari turns tomato red, and Naoto drags Satsuki to the school rooftop. Up there, she hands back a shovel, the same one from 6 years ago, and he finally asks why the hell she destroyed his garden. Satsuki says she won't explain it because he won't get it anyway, but offers to let him do weird things to her as compensation. Naoto nearly chokes from secondhand embarrassment and asks why she kissed him earlier. Satsuki just gets annoyed and tells him to use the 2 brain cells he has before walking away. On the way home, Naoto runs into Satsuki carrying Suzushiro, with the girl's knee bleeding. He immediately assumes Satsuki hurt his sister and is about to go off, but Suzushiro runs to hug him and explains that Satsuki actually helped her after she fell. The little gremlin even asks Satsuki to help with their garden. Naoto has no way out and ends up agreeing. The next day, while Naoto is helping Yukari run errands for the club, she asks if he and Satsuki are dating. The guy turns beet red and denies it aggressively, while internally admitting that Yukari is literally the only person he wants to date. Later, when he gets home, he finds Satsuki working in the backyard. She starts reminiscing about their childhood and asks if he enjoyed his meetup with the generously built girl. She also casually mentions that someday she wants to go out with him. Naoto gets flustered and tells her to stop messing with him. Then she starts pulling up her shirt, claiming she's soaked in sweat, and Naoto nearly has a full meltdown telling her to stop. The two of them stumble and crash to the ground, right as Aunt Tamayo, the woman he and Suzushiro live with, walks in and immediately goes off on Naoto for being a degenerate. She threatens to kick him out if he keeps up with the indecent behavior, and Naoto has the very real clarity that he could become homeless again. He quickly drags Suzushiro out for a walk and tells Satsuki to leave, but she follows him anyway and asks why he doesn't live with his parents anymore. He explains that after they died, he and Suzushiro had nowhere to go, and after getting passed around from relative to relative, they ended up at Tamayo's, and he already knows they'll get kicked out of there eventually too. But Satsuki makes a point. If Tamayo really wanted them gone, she never would have let them build a garden on her property. Later, Tamayo's cat steals her glasses while she's in the shower. She comes out of the bathroom in just a towel and bumps straight into Naoto, who'd come to apologize. She dashes back into the bathroom, calling him a cultured pervert, while Naoto kneels outside the door begging to let him and Suzushiro stay a little longer. Peace is eventually restored, and the siblings get back to work on the garden. The next day, Yukari invites Naoto to study together, and his best friend Tokuya immediately starts roasting him. While Naoto is convinced a girl like Yukari would never choose someone like him, Tokuya wishes him good luck on losing his innocence. Later, it starts raining, and Satsuki offers Naoto an umbrella. He asks why she didn't come tend the garden that morning. She smiles and asks if he missed her, and Yukari overhears the whole thing from a distance. When Naoto gets home, he finds a crumpled math test of Suzushiro's hidden in her dresser, and it hits him that she deliberately gets bad grades just so he'll have to tutor her. He storms out of the house and finds Satsuki standing in the rain, completely soaked. He asks why she lied about having a spare umbrella. She just blushes and says she forgot. Naoto wraps his jacket around her and walks her home, where he discovers her place is falling apart. While he wonders where her parents even are, Satsuki pulls him inside and asks him to stay, saying he needs to start living his own life instead of only worrying about Suzushiro. That hits differently. But when he finds Suzushiro later and asks to spend the weekend studying with Yukari, the little gremlin bursts into tears demanding his undivided attention. That's the last straw. Naoto completely crashes. The next morning, he wakes up with a fever and finds Satsuki lying next to him. He scrambles out of bed in a panic, and she explains she came to warm him up with her body heat. Before he can process the absurdity of that, the doorbell rings. It's Yukari, who also came to check on him. After confirming he's not hallucinating, he lets her in, and she immediately takes over the kitchen like she owns the place. Naoto goes back to his room and realizes his chances with Yukari are basically zero if she finds Satsuki there. Too late, Yukari walks in with a handmade bowl of porridge. Satsuki dives under the blankets, and Naoto tries to hover on top of her without looking suspicious. Satsuki then wraps her arms around him and says he can do whatever he wants with her, which literally short-circuits his brain. Yukari finds a bag of medicine by the bed and figures out Satsuki brought it. Green with jealousy, Yukari sets down the pot of porridge and leaves. Once she's gone, Naoto springs up, only to find Satsuki completely breathless and exhausted. He begs her to get out. When he tries Yukari's porridge, he realizes she makes a frozen microwave meal taste like a 5-star restaurant by comparison, but he eats every bite anyway. Meanwhile, Suzushiro finds Satsuki in the backyard and asks about the older man who was with her when she trashed the garden 6 years ago. Satsuki denies it and asks if Suzushiro told Naoto. The girl shakes her head and admits she was jealous of how much time her brother spent with Satsuki, so she kept quiet so she could keep him to herself. A few days later, Naoto spots Yukari being approached by older guys and walks away assuming she knows them. She sees him and invites him to study together. At the library, he blurts out loud why a girl like her would bother with a nobody like him. Yukari says the teacher asked her to look out for him since he's a transfer student, but honestly, it's because she has feelings for him. She says she likes talking to him because he's different from other guys who are only ever trying to flirt. Then she brings up the first time they met before they became classmates. Naoto accidentally walked into the girl's locker room while she was changing, and she assumed the worst. But he just asked about his sister and left. That night, Naoto runs through every possible way to maintain his image as a pure, clean-minded guy, but the image of Yukari unguarded keeps crashing back into his head, followed by the image of Satsuki underneath him, and he starts wondering how Yukari would look in that same position. Suzushiro, operating on some kind of supernatural awareness, tells him to shut up and go to sleep. The next morning, a sleep-deprived Naoto accidentally blasts Satsuki with the garden hose. At school, she tells him she had to change out of her outer layer because of him, and Naoto immediately jumps to conclusions about what she's or isn't wearing under her skirt. Yukari shows up excitedly talking about when he should come over, but Naoto's eyes are locked on Satsuki's situation. Then a gust of wind rolls through, and he instinctively grabs her from behind. Yukari walks away fuming with jealousy, while Satsuki thanks him for the reflex and reveals she was actually wearing his gym shorts underneath. Rumors that Naoto and Satsuki are a thing start spreading, and Yukari begins avoiding him. Days later, the class plans a beach trip, and Naoto panics trying to figure out what to do with Suzushiro. Then fate throws him a bone. Suzushiro's class has a field trip the same day. When he tells her they should both hang out with their friends, Suzushiro cries, begging him not to forget about her while she's away, and squeezes in a request for help picking out a swimsuit. The next day, Satsuki offers to tag along with Naoto to the mall, and Yukari overhears. She starts feeling insecure, but Tokuya suggests she go along too. She says she doesn't want to be a third wheel. He tells her not to believe rumors until Naoto says something directly, so she runs after him hoping to join. But when she gets there, Yukari goes full undercover mode and watches from a distance as Satsuki models swimsuits for Naoto, who just turns red and tells her to stop blessing his eyes. Inspired by the audacity, Yukari decides she needs to step up too. She tries on every swimsuit she can find, only to discover that she's too blessed in the chest department for any of them to fit. Meanwhile, Naoto stumbles into Satsuki's fitting room and sees her completely unguarded. She storms out, and when he catches up and apologizes, she calls him a creep. Yukari sees them holding hands and assumes the rumors are true. Naoto's heart starts racing, and he doesn't even know why. On the way out, they run into Yukari, who point-blank asks if Naoto and Satsuki are a thing. Naoto completely freezes and can't explain anything. Satsuki takes control of the situation and kisses Yukari on the cheek, explaining that kissing people is just not a big deal to her. While Naoto convulses trying to process whether she plays for both teams, Yukari finally understands they're not together and walks away happy. On the day of the beach trip, while Yukari is swarmed by admirers thanks to the laws of anime physics, Satsuki starts beating up the guys who won't leave her alone. Naoto pulls her away. Afterward, he tells her to ask for help in situations like that instead of just swinging at people. The oblivious girl just shows off her swimsuit and asks if he thinks she looks hot. She also reveals she's never been to the beach in her life, which makes Naoto realize he barely knows anything about her. When he offers to teach her to swim, Takuya appears and sends him off to run errands with Yukari. On the way to the store, Naoto realizes he's been set up and asks if she'd rather eat at the food stand instead. While they enjoy some food, everyone around them keeps whispering about what a guy like him is doing next to a girl like her. Naoto panics, grabs her hand, and they make their way back to the beach. Along the way, he manages to tell her she looks really good, and she goes pink all over with a thank you. Then a rich pretty boy named Fujioka shows up and greets Yukari. She clearly goes stiff and leaves without Naoto. Meanwhile, Takuya asks Satsuki if she likes Naoto. She says that even if he's the only one for her, she doesn't want to date him. Later, Naoto hears from classmates that Yukari and Fujioka dated 3 years ago and starts spiraling about how he's supposed to compete with someone like that. Fujioka corners Yukari at the hotel and says he wants to try again. She tells him she appreciates it but doesn't have feelings for him. He cuts her off and says she can give him an answer later. When he leaves, Satsuki tells Yukari that Naoto is overthinking their history and she should just clear it up already. Right then, Naoto walks by with his friends, and the girls overhear one of them say he's going to make a move on Satsuki because she seems like she's down for anything. Naoto immediately shuts it down and says she's not like that. Satsuki blushes. Yukari hears all of this and decides she needs to talk to Fujioka. But before she goes, she tells Satsuki she's never dated anyone, including Fujioka. Satsuki later clears this up in front of the girls feeding the rumors, and Naoto hears too. Meanwhile, Yukari finds Fujioka at a fancy restaurant. She remembers how it was him who spread the rumors about them dating and pressured her to confirm it. When she finally worked up the nerve to push back, he just said he'd never give up on her. Back in the present, when Fujioka says he still loves her, Yukari tells him she's got someone else in her heart now, and walks away. Takuya tells Naoto that Yukari is somewhere alone and sends him to find her. When Naoto does, she tells him to go back, but he refuses, saying he can't just leave when she looks that upset. Yukari tries to leave, trips on her broken sandal and starts crying, saying she's too weak and too much of a coward. She explains she never actually dated Fujioka, but never corrected the misunderstanding either. When she says she wants to be braver like him, Fujioka appears with a crew of fangirls and asks her to come back to the hotel. She hides behind Naoto, who tells Fujioka to stop lying. Fujioka pushes back and demands she confirm it. Instead of folding, Yukari finally says she never liked him and he can get lost. Fujioka loses his cool and grabs her arm, but Satsuki appears out of nowhere and drops him with a kick, calling him trash. Fujioka gets up and calls her out for fighting like a man, but Satsuki threatens to call the cops, which finally sends him packing. Back at the hotel, Yukari thanks Satsuki, who says she only did it so Naoto wouldn't get in trouble. Hearing that, Yukari reveals she plans to confess to him after the trip. Satsuki says that's not her problem. Yukari can do whatever she wants. When she leaves, Naoto shows up with convenience store onigiri and tells her to eat something. Satsuki asks why he's so kind to her when he's clearly into Yukari. That catches him off guard. Then she kisses him and tells him to stop confusing her, because if he keeps it up, she might destroy something important to him again, like she did 6 years ago. The next day, Naoto can't stop replaying what Satsuki said, and he remembers that 6 years ago, the two of them got inspired by some cheesy rom-com and decided to run away together. But when the sun started going down, they got lost and had to turn back. He tries to remember the expression on her face in that moment, but Suzushiro comes home from her field trip and breaks the spell. The next morning, he waits outside Satsuki's place, and when she appears, he asks why she didn't come water the plants. Satsuki seems surprised he's not asking about the kiss, and questions whether he felt something. Naoto turns red and admits he did, but she points out that he hates her, so none of it makes sense. Then he finally says it. He wasn't angry about her destroying the garden. He was angry because she disappeared, and he couldn't see her anymore. Satsuki asks if he still has feelings for her. When he says no, she tells him to never talk to her again and walks away. At school, Yukari tries to confess multiple times, but something always gets in the way and she keeps losing her nerve. Meanwhile, Naoto notices Satsuki showed up to school with Takuya and finds that weird. Later, in the boys' locker room, he opens the door and finds Yukari inside without her top. He slams it shut. She assumes he wants to develop the plot and stammers that she's not mentally ready yet. but he explains she walked into the wrong bathroom and she sinks to her knees in embarrassment. Naoto sneaks a glance at her situation and turns around, and she uses that window to finally blurt out her confession. But before she can say she likes him, the door swings open and Naoto falls right on top of her. His hand lands somewhere it shouldn't, and she runs off. That evening, Yukari finally catches him at the school exit and confesses she wants to date him, asks him to think about it, and once again bolts before he can respond. When Naoto gets home, still in shock, Suzushiro brings up Satsuki and tells him to go make things right. He goes to her place and finds the door open, but no Satsuki inside. After seeing the state of the apartment, he finds her calendar and figures out she's at work. He heads there and finds her in a cute Chinese restaurant uniform handing out flyers, and she is not thrilled to see him. When Satsuki gets off her shift, she asks why he's there after she told him never to talk to her again. He says he's worried about her because she's his childhood friend. That finally gets a smile out of her. She asks if she can stay close to him under the excuse of just friends, and Naoto agrees, also mentioning that from where he's standing, he can see straight up her skirt. Satsuki lifts it even higher and says he's welcome to look, and he turns bright red. The next morning, Naoto tells Yukari that even though her confession meant a lot, he genuinely believes she deserves way better than a loser like him and turns her down. But Yukari pushes back and says it's him she wants, and proposes a trial relationship for a few months. Later, Naoto vents to Tokuya over food about being terrified of letting Yukari down. Tokuya tells him to focus on what he actually feels and figure it out from there, and offers to be his personal love guru. Naoto quietly wonders what kind of dark life this guy has lived to have all this experience. At that moment, Satsuki shows up and teases him about finally losing his innocence with his first girlfriend. Tokuya compliments the Chinese restaurant uniform, and Naoto brings up that she came for a job interview. Satsuki leans against him and says it's her last day there. She found something better. When Naoto gets called in for his interview, Tokuya asks Satsuki how she's holding up. She says that a childhood bond is something no outsider can ever break. In the waiting room, Naoto spots a girl asleep in a chair and feels like he's seen her before. When he leans in to get a better look, she wakes up and accuses him of trying to kiss her. When the manager walks in, Naoto tries to explain. The girl looks at his resume and realizes she knows him. That night, Yukari catches him outside school and invites him on a date, which instantly refills every one of his social energy bars. On the day of the date, he brings Suzushiro along as a buffer, but Yukari doesn't mind. She introduces herself to the girl, who is temporarily blinded by Yukari's beauty, and releases Naoto for the day. The three of them head to the zoo, while Tokuya and Satsuki tail them from a distance, under the excuse of making sure he doesn't screw everything up. Later, as Naoto and Suzushiro inhale the bento Yukari made with her mom, Tokuya notices Satsuki keeps staring at the happy families around them. When the uninvited trio gets exposed, Suzushiro found Tokuya and Satsuki mid-stakeout. Naoto calls them out, but Satsuki offers Suzushiro ice cream, and Tokuya tells him to enjoy some alone time with his almost girlfriend. With the human roadblock removed, Naoto finally holds Yukari's hand, and mentally vows never to wash it again. Meanwhile, Yukari gets increasingly jealous of Satsuki, and decides she needs to lock Naoto down sooner rather than later. The next day, she heads to the convenience store to pick up some protection, fully planning to end the era of innocence over summer break. The next day at school, while Yukari tries to cut into a conversation between Satsuki and Naoto, karma itself shows up to ruin it. Some guys tell Naoto a cute girl is looking for him. When he looks out the window, it's the same girl from the interview. A classmate reveals her name is Makina. Naoto then realizes she's his senpai from his old school, a star athlete who was in the same club as him. Makina explains she came to tell him they both got hired at the Chinese restaurant, but the manager couldn't reach him because he doesn't have a phone. And since she's here anyway, she grabs his arm and says he needs to buy a cell phone immediately, dragging him away. Yukari seethes with jealousy, but talks herself into trusting him. After buying the phone, Makina insists the first call has to be to her, but Naoto, faithful as ever, calls Yukari first. Yukari tears up. Makina, irritated, asks who he called. Naoto says simply, "My girlfriend." That night, Makina gets back to the dorm, gets chewed out by her coach, and has to listen to her roommates trash-talking her. Lying in bed in an anime-coded nightgown, she wonders how a complete L of a person like Naoto ended up with a girlfriend. Then she sits up and makes a decision. She's going to break them up and make Naoto her personal boy toy. The next day at work, Makina tries everything. Puppy dog eyes, strategic posturing, to get Naoto's attention, but he keeps treating her like background scenery. Frustrated, she redirects all that energy into the job and accidentally ends up being the most productive first-day employee they've ever had. When she goes to change, Satsuki swings by to grab some stuff and casually remarks that Makina's assets are way too small for Naoto's taste. Makina, deeply offended, runs to Naoto and tells him to dump his weird girlfriend. When Naoto realizes she means Satsuki, he remembers the better job she mentioned and starts getting worried. He starts tailing her, and the trail leads to a sketchy part of town. His mind goes to the worst possible places given the state of her apartment, but he has no way to check every establishment. So he waits until night and goes to her place. There, he tells her to come to him if she's being pressured into anything shady, whether it's for money or family stuff. Satsuki says she'll tell him if he first tells her how his first day of work went. Naoto complains about how long he had to stay on his feet. She grabs his foot and offers a massage. He gets flustered and says he's fine, but she keeps going, works up to the ankle, then the knee. When she gets to the thigh, Naoto murmurs that he's dating Yukari. She says he's the one who said she could stay close. When her face gets dangerously close to his situation, his phone rings. He was barely saved. Satsuki pulls back and, laughing, admits it was all a joke. She works as a waitress at a BBQ spot. Naoto exhales in relief, and she assures him she's not having money or family problems. Days later, Makina asks Naoto to be her fake boyfriend at the fireworks festival. He hooks her up with Takuya instead and invites Yukari, but she already has plans with her friends, so they arrange to meet at a specific time and place. On the day of the festival, Takuya texts that Makina bailed. Naoto finds her near a shrine and asks why she's acting like a child. Makina says he didn't warn her that Takuya is that good looking, and a guy that far out of her league is too much for her heart to handle. While Naoto quietly absorbs yet another hit to his ego, a group of guys corners Makina. Naoto helps her escape by running, and she complains the whole way that he should have confronted them instead of bolting. She assumes his mystery girlfriend must be some average small-town girl. Then Yukari appears at the meetup spot, and Makina stops dead in her tracks. She knows she can't compete with that, and leaves. But the moment she gets back to the dorm, it hits her. She's fallen for him. Meanwhile, on the train ride back, Yukari reveals she left the festival early to spend more time with Naoto. But on the walk from the station to his house, a heavy rain starts, and Naoto brings Yukari home since it's the closest option. He finds Satsuki soaked at the front gate and asks what she's doing there. She says she came to tend to Suzushiro's plants. When she tries to leave, Naoto tells her to stay the night. It's too dangerous to be out in this. That night, with both girls sleeping in the next room, Yukari wakes up and sneaks into Naoto's room. She lies down beside him and goes in for a kiss. And Naoto wakes up and pushes her against the door, calling her Satsuki. That throws her completely off. She tells him to do it. He thinks she means kiss. But Yukari lies down on the floor and suggests they slow down before things go too far since neither of them planned for this. Then it clicks. He weaves his fingers through hers and is about to let the moment unfold until the image of the pure, clean impression he needs to maintain in front of her crashes into his mind. Naoto backs off and says they need to take it slow. Yukari leaves irritated, and Naoto spends the rest of the night mentally kicking himself for fumbling the biggest moment of his life. The next morning, Yukari is already gone when he wakes up. He offers to walk Satsuki to work. On the way, he asks if Yukari said anything, and Satsuki says she's proud of him for keeping his head together last night. She also tells him to work on his absolutely terrible communication skills if he wants to keep things going with Yukari. Later, he texts her saying they need to talk after her cram school session. Yukari spirals, convinced he's about to dump her now that he knows she literally threw herself at him. Meanwhile, Naoto's manager gives him 2 movie passes, and he invites Makina to use the extras with him, Suzushiro, and her little friend. That night, while Yukari desperately tries to reach him, this absolute disaster of a man falls asleep on Makina's shoulder during the movie. He texts Yukari to meet in person the next day, and she's left on red, waiting. Yukari is feeling more and more insecure about Naoto's relationship with Satsuki and can't figure out how to compete with a lifelong childhood friend. On the day they meet up, Naoto has 2 hours to kill between work and their plans, and Makina drags him into a shopping spree instead of letting him wander around looking like a lost puppy. After hours of serving as her unpaid personal assistant, he takes her to lunch at a BBQ place, where they run into Satsuki working as a waitress. She teases him about letting Makina rent him for the day, while Makina spirals about her own figure and comes to the painful realization that Naoto genuinely does prefer more. She complains that guys always want more, and Naoto tells her flat is justice and she shouldn't feel insecure. She then sits in his lap and asks him to massage her chest from behind because she heard it helps with growth. Naoto says he won't hold back, which catches her so off guard that she falls off the chair. When he helps her up, he apologizes for teasing and admits he's been trying to keep his less pure thoughts locked down because of the image he has to maintain around Yukari, and he admits he's in love with her. Makina storms off furious, leaving all her bags behind. Then Naoto turns around, and Yukari is standing right there, having heard every word. While he stands there completely mortified, she smiles and asks him to say it again, and just like that, they're okay. That night, Makina comes back from late practice and finds Naoto waiting at the dorm entrance with all her bags. After he returns them and leaves, Makina starts crying because she can't get over a guy who's just this genuinely kind. The next day, Naoto heads to school for summer classes and catches himself completely melting into his own thoughts about Yukari. Satsuki sneaks up behind him and scares him. He asks why she's in a swimsuit, and she explains she needs swim classes for her extracurricular credits. She complains she can only hold her breath for 20 seconds underwater and asks if Naoto would have taught her to swim when they were kids. Then he tells her that he and Yukari are officially together now, so he can't give Satsuki as much of his attention anymore. Her coach calls her back. Before she goes, Satsuki tells him he doesn't need to worry about her, because her feelings for him are never going to change. But if he ever needs her, she'll always be there. Yukari shows up and clocks that he was just with Satsuki, which reignites all her insecurities, so she invites him over. When Naoto arrives, Yukari's mom Mio welcomes him warmly and thanks him for being such a good friend to her daughter. He thinks it's weird she's calling her daughter's boyfriend a friend. Later, when Mio heads out to pick up Yukari's little brother from swim school, Yukari leads Naoto to her room and announces she's ready to take things to the next level. She pulls out a little bag and reveals she even bought protection. But Naoto pumps the brakes. He doesn't want to betray Mio's trust, and it's too soon. The increasingly desperate girl is not taking no for an answer and pulls him into a hug, very intentionally showcasing her assets. Naoto's inner degenerate caves at the sight of them, and the two of them lean in for a kiss. Then Mio walks in, and while they're not exactly in a compromising position, she can tell something is off. When Yukari goes to make tea, Naoto knocks the box of protection off the table, and Mio sees it. He panics, grabs it, and tries to escape, while Mio gently reminds him her daughter is still very young. On the walk home, Naoto collapses from the summer heat on the sidewalk and dreams of Satsuki telling him she knows what happened. She reminds him of what became of his parents after they had kids so young, and she says instead of doing that with Yukari, he should come to her place and practice. Then she kisses him, and when he opens his eyes, Satsuki is actually there beside him. She explains she found him passed out and brought him over. Naoto says it's weirdly easy to lean on her because she babies him too much. Satsuki smiles and asks if he likes being spoiled by her, and he starts crying, realizing Mio was right and that he and Yukari are still way too young for all of this. Later, as they walk to the grocery store together, Naoto admits that even after everything, he still doesn't want to break up with Yukari. When Satsuki says he's emotionally all over the place today, Mio pulls up in her car and tells him to get in. She needs to talk. Satsuki climbs in too, saying she's not leaving her boy toy alone with a scary woman like that, which makes Mio laugh. At a convenience store stop, Naoto tries to take all the blame, but Mio says she knows it's her daughter's hormones running the show. He asks if they can still date. Mio says they can stay friends, but that he should break up with Yukari because they're both too young to keep a handle on their impulses. Even so, from that day on, Naoto becomes more determined than ever and swears he'll never break up with Yukari. He drops summer classes, plans to become self-sufficient by graduation, and starts asking Yukari out every single day. He figures public spaces will prevent things from heating up, which will keep Mio satisfied. On one of these dates, while Yukari teaches him English sitting pressed right up against him, Naoto starts turning red. And then he notices her very well-endowed situation has sort of escaped her shirt. He asks if she did that on purpose. Yukari goes bright red and bolts. Thoughts that are the opposite of clean start flooding Naoto's head again, and he realizes that keeping things innocent is way harder than he ever thought. That night, after her shower, Yukari gets a text from Naoto saying he can't see her for a few days. Makina got hurt and he's covering her shifts. Meanwhile, with Makina stuck at the dorm, she calls Naoto asking for company. Surprisingly, he says yes. At her dorm room, Makina asks if his heart is racing being alone in a room with a girl as cute as her. Naoto says she's just a surfboard. He notices she's strategically positioned her clothes for maximum visibility and tells her she can cut it out. During a walk, Makina mentions that instead of going pro as an athlete, she's been thinking about becoming a stay-at-home wife someday. Naoto tells her she's too young to be thinking like that, but she says people their age already think about marriage and asks if he thinks about marrying his girlfriend. Naoto says he's never even considered it, and she asks why he's even dating then. He explains it's because of how inferior he feels, and that Yukari deserves someone better. Makina tells him that's not love if he's letting made-up insecurities mess with the relationship. She tries to leave and twists her ankle again, and Naoto ends up carrying her back to her room. The next day at the library, Yukari grabs Naoto's hand and asks if he'd want to come over that night for an intense study session. When he brings up not wanting to break Mio's trust again, she presses herself against him and reveals she's not even talking to Mio these days, so it doesn't matter. He apologizes for messing up her relationship with her family and asks her to try to see Mio's side of it. Yukari walks away. On her way out, she overhears Satsuki's swimming coach telling her not to suddenly switch schools. Too curious to let it go, she has to know more. Satsuki reveals she's going back to her parents' place today, which means transferring schools too. Yukari asks if she told Naoto. Satsuki says it's not his problem. But when Yukari reminds her that she loves him, Satsuki smiles and gives her the train name and departure time, leaving it up to Yukari to decide whether to tell him or not. Meanwhile, Naoto meets with Mio and tells her about his parents, that because he watched firsthand what happened when they rushed into things too young, he'll never put himself and Yukari in that position. The speech convinces Mio, and she gives them her blessing to keep dating, as long as there are no expansions to the family. After Mio leaves, Yukari calls and tells him about Satsuki and that she's leaving today. Naoto first brushes it off, saying it's not the first time she's disappeared without warning, but when Yukari gives him the departure time, he's already running. At the same time, Yukari admits to herself that part of her wanted to test Naoto's loyalty and see if Satsuki had finally figured out her own feelings. At the station, when Naoto finds her, he asks how she keeps doing this, just disappearing without a word. He demands she get off the train and talk to him, but Satsuki just grabs him and pulls him on board, forcing him to ride along. On the way, he tells her again that she can't keep doing this disappearing act over and over. She asks if he only came because Yukari told him to. Naoto says no, he came on his own. When they arrive in her hometown, Satsuki tries to send him back, but he insists on meeting her parents, and she eventually takes him to the family inn. They sneak in through the back, where a staff member named Yayoi completely loses it the moment she recognizes Naoto as Satsuki's first love. While she starts mentally drafting fanfiction, Naoto has to snap her out of the daydream and make it very clear there is absolutely nothing going on between them. When Satsuki goes to see her parents, Yayoi fills Naoto in on the backstory. Satsuki's grandmother passed away about a year ago. Her parents wanted her to inherit the inn, but Naomi was completely against the whole Sweet Home Alabama situation and bounced. Smart move. Yayoi keeps going with the lore dump. Satsuki was adopted 6 years ago, and that's probably why she wants nothing to do with the inn. Back at Naoto's apartment, Suzushiro is trying to remember the mysterious figure who approached Satsuki 6 years ago, and wonders who that man was. The mysterious man is Naomi, a stoic blonde who happens to be Satsuki's adoptive brother. That night, Yayoi prepares a strong herbal drink to recharge them both. She just massively overdid the dosage, and both of them crash before they even finish it. The next morning, Naoto wakes up completely tangled up with Satsuki and scrambles out of the room in a panic, dreading what accusations might be coming his way. Meanwhile, Satsuki gets forced into a white kimono with zero enthusiasm. The two of them head out together to visit a local shrine. Despite Naoto trying everything to lighten the mood, Satsuki keeps moving like someone walking toward their own execution. During the visit, Naoto runs into Yayoi again, and accidentally obliterates her entire fan fiction fantasy by casually dropping that he has a girlfriend. Then Satsuki comes back from the bathroom and tells Naoto she's genuinely not feeling well, like physically sick with nerves, just thinking about facing her adoptive parents because they want her to stay at the inn, by their side, forever. Then Naoto, playing the role of helpful disaster, suggests they pretend to be a couple, which would give Satsuki a solid excuse to go back to Tokyo. She acts like the idea is completely outrageous, but honestly, it's exactly what she wanted all along. Classic. When the big confrontation comes, Naoto lies and says he and Satsuki are together, and is completely blindsided when the supposedly intimidating parents react with absolute joy. They reveal they adopted Satsuki because her birth mother couldn't afford to raise her, and that the plan was always to make her the inn's heir by marrying her off to Naomi. But Naomi wanted no part of that arranged marriage scheme and fled. Smart guy. Later, as Naoto and Satsuki head home, Naomi confronts her about her real feelings, telling her he knows she's in love with Naoto. It's the first time she's been forced to face what she actually feels, and she realizes her adoptive brother is right. Back at Yukari's apartment, she's getting more jealous and impatient by the minute, especially since Naoto isn't picking up her calls. In a desperate bid for attention, she starts taking selfies for him, going all out with the production value to maximize her persuasive power. But right in the middle of all that, her little brother barges in without knocking, catches her in the act, and stands there completely confused about why she's suddenly wearing something she clearly doesn't normally wear. Incredible. Meanwhile, Satsuki is in the middle of swim practice, but her head is somewhere else entirely, completely taken over by her complicated feelings for Naoto. Later that day, Yukari and Naoto go on a date, where he gives her a love charm he picked up at the shrine. Yukari is so touched by the gesture that she asks his manager to take a photo of them together. Meanwhile, Makina watches the couple from inside the restaurant, doing everything in her power not to start crying in public. Poor girl. The date gets rudely crashed by Satsuki, who shows up out of nowhere and confesses her undying love to Naoto right then and there, asking what he actually feels for her. Yukari cannot believe the audacity of this girl, walking up and shooting her shot at her man right to her face. So she pulls Satsuki aside for a private conversation, terrified that if Naoto has too much time to think, he might actually take the offer. She begs Satsuki to stop torpedoing her last chance, but Satsuki says this is between her and Naoto, and Yukari should mind her own business. Zero filter, as always. Later that day, Satsuki hugs him from behind while he's sulking over Yukari and invites him to the pool for the swimming lessons he'd promised her ages ago. Even while trying to stay loyal to Yukari, Naoto's degenerate brain completely takes over when Satsuki shows up in a very distracting swimsuit. Even so, he tells her he can't return her feelings because he's in a relationship. Satsuki takes that personally and literally tries to drown herself. Dramatic queen behavior. Naoto pulls her out, but Yukari's little brother witnesses the two of them thrashing around in the pool. He sprints home and spills everything to Yukari, who immediately decides it's time for a serious conversation with her very questionable boyfriend. When the day of the confrontation finally comes, Naoto can't help noticing how beautiful his girlfriend looks, completely oblivious to the storm cloud hanging right over his head. He tries to play the perfect boyfriend during their date, but his whole world collapses when Yukari says she can't be with him anymore. It's over. The next morning, Naoto enters full emo mode. It's obvious to everyone that he got dumped. He can't even hear his ex's name without bolting to the bathroom to cry. Meanwhile, Satsuki finds Yukari alone in an empty classroom and offers her a tissue for her tears. Yukari can't believe she's being comforted by Satsuki of all people and feels terrible about breaking up with Naoto, especially since he firmly turned Satsuki down. Even so, she admits she felt incredibly insecure in the relationship, and that breaking up was the right call. However, later, when Tokuya texts asking about the breakup, she completely denies it, saying they're still together. Totally innocent little white lie, right? Satsuki, on the other hand, is on cloud 9. Her meddling actually worked, and starts wondering whether Naoto's answer might change now that he's single. A few days later, as Naoto crosses the school courtyard, he runs into Yukari and her friends. He's shocked when she greets him like nothing happened, like she didn't break up with him just days ago. While he's still processing that, Satsuki ambushes him later and shows up in a very strategic ghost costume. To cheer him up, she puts her assets front and center and offers to let him do whatever he wants if he's truly that desperate. Bro. After school, Tokuya finds Yukari and calls her out on the lying, but she flat out denies the breakup ever happened. Tokuya takes the opportunity to bring up the upcoming cultural festival and the legends surrounding it. Apparently, if two people kiss at the festival, they'll always end up together no matter what obstacles get in the way. That fills Yukari with hope, and she decides to ask Naoto to a post-festival hangout to put the legend to the test. Meanwhile, Naoto overhears some people gossiping about Yukari, saying she's got eyes for Tokuya. His fragile ego crumbles, and he starts convincing himself that his best friend would be a way better fit for her anyway, since the guy has literally everything going for him. Classic insecure guy behavior. Days later, as the school preps for the festival, Naoto can't focus on anything, his brain completely hijacked by the women running his life. Overwhelmed, he goes looking for Satsuki, seriously considering taking her up on her offer. But before he can say a word, Yukari and Tokuya walk in and completely kill the vibe. He fully buys into the rumors about the two of them, which, weirdly enough, makes it easier to take that next step with Satsuki. Later, he goes to her place where she locks in on target again, flaunting her assets and positioning his face very strategically to maximize her odds. Naoto caves, and the next moment the two of them are in a dark room with him on top of her. But Satsuki cannot handle the smell of his armpits and tells him to go shower first. In the shower, Naoto confesses that he'll only go all the way with her after they've been together for a while. Satsuki gives him until the cultural festival to officially ask her out, which would seal the deal and lock them in together for good. A few weeks later, the festival is in full swing. Tokuya explains the legend to Suzushiro, who is genuinely baffled that actual grown adults believe in this stuff. Meanwhile, the moment Yukari finishes her shift, she starts getting ready to find Naoto, already daydreaming about marriage and kids. Right then, her friends ask what's going on with Tokuya, and Yukari finally reveals that the guy she actually has feelings for is Naoto, who is hiding nearby and hears every single word. Later, when Yukari finally finds him outside, she gets swarmed by a mob of unhinged fans wanting photos. Naoto helps her escape by ducking into an alley and throwing on mascot costumes, but Yukari gets all flustered being that close to him and kisses him through the masks. Then the psycho fans track them down and beat the daylights out of Naoto, who passes out like the drama queen he is. But Satsuki appears and scatters the crowd with sheer intimidation alone, and carries him to the nurse's office while Yukari watches jealously from outside. Sometime later, Naoto wakes up in the nurse's office with Satsuki leaning over him, dressed as a zombie nurse. She cuts straight to the point, pushing him to ask her out already so they can skip to the good part. Naoto, however, is completely torn after hearing Yukari's confession and refuses, saying he's confused because he loves them both equally. He says he plans to reject Yukari too, because dating either one of them would be unfair to the other. But Satsuki is done with his morality arc and kisses him on the lips, hoping the festival legend kicks in and makes them a couple whether he's ready or not. Later that night, he rejects Yukari's confession and she walks away heartbroken. For the next 3 days, she stays home acting like the apocalypse arrived, even though her own insecurity brought her here. A few days later, on the walk home, she tells Tokuya that what hurt the most was hearing Naoto say he loves Satsuki too, because that was her biggest fear all along. That night, when Naoto gets home, Tamayo tells him that his childhood house is being torn down soon. He needs to go there urgently to rescue a photo album. Naoto is reluctant to go back, and that's where he first met Satsuki, but he can't say no to Tamayo. He takes the bus and finally arrives at the old house, where he spots a red-haired girl he doesn't recognize leaving the place with a package in hand. He searches the entire house, but the album is nowhere to be found. That's when he remembers how his dad used to develop family photos, including one of him and Satsuki, and it hits him that Redhead was carrying something that looked a lot like a photo album. He takes off after her. When he catches up, she offers to walk him to the station, introducing herself as Reika, the landlady's granddaughter. She invites him in for tea, and Naoto says yes, hoping to get the truth about the package. To his complete and utter disappointment, the mysterious package was just a box of snacks. Life is pain. After hearing the whole story, Reika reveals that Satsuki came by earlier looking for the album too. Naoto figures she was after photos from their childhood, but can't figure out where the album ended up. To cheer him up, Reika invites him to the exclusive women's bar where she works, and Naoto gets a glimpse of the paradise every guy dreams about at least once in his life. Lucky him. That night, surrounded by more than he can handle in every direction, Reika pulls him aside to a quieter corner and volunteers to be his therapist for the evening. She immediately clocks that his love life is a total disaster. Naoto unloads everything, says he can't choose one without hurting the other. Reika calls him a straight-up coward, saying he clearly likes one of them more, and is just scared to admit it. She also shares a piece of relationship advice his dad once gave her, which makes Naoto realize he inherited his father's complete and total lack of game. It's genetic, apparently. Reika also mentions that his dad used to email Tamayo pretty regularly, which surprises Naoto. He always assumed his dad had cut off all family contact after getting married. Back in Tokyo, Satsuki decides to leave the city for good, since Naoto rejected her. Tokuya finds out and tries to convince her to date him instead, but she turns him down and asks him to make sure Naoto never tries to contact her again. When Naoto gets home and hears about Satsuki's sudden departure, he's deeply worried. But Tokuya keeps his promise and tells him they started dating to prevent any contact. Bro, that's a real betrayal. That's when Naoto realizes just how dependent on her he'd become. And now, without her around, there's a massive hole in his chest. 3 months pass. Naoto tries to fill the void by dating Makina. But one day a package arrives from Reika. Inside, a flash drive with the last copy of the photo of him and Satsuki. He finally works up the nerve to call the inn, where Yayoi tells him Satsuki never came home. Meanwhile, Satsuki has been living in a secret dorm, far from Naoto and her family, trying to start fresh. A few days later, Naoto tells Tamayo he's skipping the school trip. He's single, friendless, and Tokuya has gone completely dark on him. He starts wondering if it's because of the supposed new thing with Satsuki. On Valentine's Day, Yukari shows up out of nowhere and gives Naoto chocolate, asking if they can just be friends again. Tokuya, who also got chocolates from her, finally responds to messages and asks to meet the next morning. At the meetup, Tokuya comes clean, admits he has no idea where Satsuki is either. He also convinces Naoto to go on the school trip, promising he won't be alone. That's when Naoto realizes the rumors about Tokuya and Satsuki were completely made up, which brings a small but real sense of relief. Meanwhile, Yukari vents to her friend Shimada, saying that while she's okay just being Naoto's friend, she'd honestly rather be his girlfriend again. Tokuya also nudges Naoto to give Yukari another shot since Satsuki is out of the picture. But Naoto can't bring himself to do it. It feels too dishonest. At home, he finds Aunt Tamayo completely reinvented, having become a full-on Instagram influencer seemingly overnight. She admits she was planning to talk to his teachers to make sure he wasn't getting bullied at school, and is relieved to hear he's going on the trip. While packing, Naoto finds the childhood photo with Satsuki and feels a pang knowing he never got to give it to her. During the trip, Yukari and Naoto end up sitting together, and he notices he's way less of a disaster now that he's not under the pressure of being the perfect boyfriend. When they arrive in Okinawa and head to the hotel, Yukari is horrified to see Satsuki checking in at the same hotel. She's terrified her plan to slowly win Naoto back just got a whole lot more complicated. Later, Satsuki corners Tokuya in a bathroom, and he admits he used mildly unhinged stalker tactics to track down her school. He pretends he's not playing matchmaker between her and Naoto, but honestly, he's been pulling strings behind the scenes like a puppet master. Tokuya is not as simple as he looks. Throughout the whole trip, Satsuki keeps crossing paths with Naoto by accident, but Yukari makes sure to keep him occupied at all times. Eventually, though, she feels too guilty about the lie and comes clean. Satsuki is staying at the same hotel. Naoto takes off running like a man on a mission, determined to find Satsuki and get some kind of closure. Over the next few days, Naoto has the single greatest meltdown of his entire existence, wandering around asking everyone if they've seen Satsuki. He gets so far gone that he starts sneaking through the girls' floor of the hotel like an absolute menace, until his friends sit him down and try to talk some sense into him. When they realize there's no stopping him, they decide to just help him get to Satsuki so this can be over. They cook up an elaborate plan to distract the teacher, buying Naoto time to sneak into her room and finally say what he needs to say, but he finds her completely knocked out cold. So he leaves a note saying he has the childhood photo and wants to give it to her in person. The next morning, some random nerdy kid from Satsuki's school delivers a message to Naoto. She's asking him to just send the photo through the nerd, but that photo is his last shot at contact with her, so he refuses. Later, Tokuya informs him that Satsuki's school trip ends that same day, sending Naoto into full panic mode. He comes up with another unhinged plan. He disguises himself as the nerdy kid and infiltrates Satsuki's class during their excursion. Meanwhile, the actual nerdy kid asks Tokuya why he's even helping Naoto get the girl. And Tokuya says that since he has zero chance with any girl himself, the least he can do is help a friend. At least he's self-aware. Naoto appears out of nowhere in front of Satsuki and drags her along, until they end up at a stunning sunflower field. Satsuki is genuinely moved because the field looks exactly like the one from their childhood photo. She explains she cut contact because she feels guilty for interfering in his life and getting in the way of his happiness. She thought that if she disappeared for good, he could finally get his happy ending with Yukari. Naoto, being the emotionally challenged disaster he is, responds by saying Yukari sees him as just a friend. Satsuki asks if he's only here because he got rejected. He says no, says he made this decision 3 months ago. Then he finally gets the words out. He wants to be with Satsuki, but she decides to make him work for it. She almost kisses him, and stops at the last second, saying he needs to keep chasing her just a little longer. Then she asks him to pose in the field, takes an adorable photo, saves it to her phone, and finally gives him her number. This couple is going to be the death of me. A month passes since the chaotic school trip, and Naoto and Satsuki text each other every single day. He finally sets up an in-person date, and Satsuki gets dressed in an outfit that goes absolutely crazy. Meanwhile, poor Yukari is on the verge of an existential crisis. The guy she loves was snatched by the same girl twice. At work, the manager tells Naoto that Makina is putting in her 2 weeks for personal reasons. He goes to check on her, and gets ambushed when she comes sprinting out of her apartment. He then meets Makina's older sister, who is completely convinced that Naoto and Makina are a couple. Naoto confronts Makina about the lie, and finds out her sister wants to bring her back to their hometown. As a desperate move to stay in Tokyo, Makina made up a fake boyfriend, Naoto. But now that she's been caught, there's no way out. Even so, she begs Naoto to spend the next day with her to make some good memories before she leaves. The problem is he's already got plans with Satsuki that exact same day. He explains the situation. Satsuki pretends she couldn't care less, tells him to go be with Makina, and pushes their date back. Generous? Strategic? Both. The next morning, Naoto and Makina go on the most painfully awkward outing ever, her trying to close the distance while he tries to gently maintain it. She ends up confessing her undying love for him and gets a polite but firm rejection. Mortified, Makina takes off running, and Naoto runs after her. They both trip and land on top of each other, ending the weird outing on a strangely wholesome note. But then Naoto realizes he's 40 minutes late for his actual date with Satsuki, and bolts. He finds her waiting in the cold. The two of them head up to a rooftop to finally share a kiss and make things official. Naoto feels Satsuki's heart pounding against his chest and realizes she's just as nervous as he is. When he finally leans in to kiss her, her alarm goes off. They're forced to pull back. Brutal luck, man. On the walk back, Satsuki tells him she's planning to take over the family inn and wants to go to a different college to study business management. When they reach their destination, Naoto can't take it anymore and grabs her, trying to finally get that kiss. Satsuki dodges again, saying there might be security cameras around. Naoto is completely lost trying to decode these mixed signals. Every move he makes gets turned down by this girl, and yet she keeps making it clear she's interested. It makes absolutely no sense. A few days later, with finals coming up, Naoto and his friends plan a study session that quickly turns into a group therapy session about their love lives. He sets up a meetup with Satsuki for after exams and gets laser focused on doing well to impress her. Once finals are done, everyone starts thinking about the future. Yukari invites Naoto on a college campus tour with some friends, still relentlessly trying to spend time with the guy who keeps rejecting her. Optimistic, if nothing else. At home, Tamayo tells Naoto to pick whatever college he actually wants to go to, and lets him and Suzushiro know they can stay for as long as they need. She even offers to cover his tuition in exchange for his housework. Naoto just acquired himself a sugar aunt. Right after that, a text from Satsuki comes in asking if she can come over. Naoto is so hype about finally having her at his place that he goes full chef mode prepping tea and lunch when she arrives. But things heat up fast once they're alone, and Satsuki asks Naoto to kiss her. Then she gets jealous seeing Yukari's college tour flyers, but acts completely unbothered. Instead, she climbs on top of him to set the mood, but he senses something is off. He wraps his arms around her tight, saying he wants to understand why she's so complicated before anything else happens. Satsuki tells him that her adoptive brother and Yayoi are getting married and taking over the inn, which would make her whole business school plan pointless. She also confesses that the reason she kept dodging the kiss before was fear. Fear of actually accepting that Naoto genuinely wants her. After she leaves, Naoto wonders if things would have been simpler with someone less complicated. But even so, he decides to handle things for her, and makes an urgent trip to the inn. There, Naomi explains he never actually planned to run the inn after getting married. That was his mom spreading rumors in an emotional moment. He also fills in more of Satsuki's backstory. Her biological mother was neglectful, too wrapped up in her own drama to pay attention to her daughter. It was Naomi who used to regularly drop her off at Naoto's house, but when summer ended, she always knew it would be a long time before she'd see him again. On the ride back, Naomi drives Naoto home, and Naoto finally understands why Satsuki is so guarded about their relationship. The only connection that ever actually worked in her life was the one with him, which is exactly why she's being so incredibly careful. The next morning, Naomi finds Satsuki and explains everything, reassuring her that her dream of running the inn is still very much alive. A week later, the whole group heads to Satsuki's restaurant, where Tokuya admits he's decided to officially retire from meddling in other people's love lives. Yukari finds Satsuki and just lays it all out there, confesses that she let her feelings cloud her judgment. She admits Naoto rejected her multiple times, but she kept pushing anyway, until she finally accepted that his eyes were only ever on Satsuki. But Satsuki admits she's scared she's not good enough for Naoto, and that's why she's struggling to make things official. A few days later, Naoto gets organized to meet her, and races to finish everything without being late again. But the more he handles, the more keeps piling up, and he starts to spiral. Then, to his surprise, when he walks out of the building, Satsuki is waiting right outside. She snuck onto the campus to find him. Naoto doesn't waste a second, tells her he loves her and that he wants to build a future and a family with her. Satsuki turns tomato red, and the two of them finally share their first real kiss. Their slow burn romance finally paying off after everything they've been through. Naoto tells her he changed his college plans and is going straight into working as a chef after graduation. He admits that between school and work, he might not be able to see her as often as they'd both like. But Satsuki says she's fine with a long-distance relationship because she fully trusts him now. Satsuki also tells him she's enrolling in college, which will make meetups harder on her end too. But even with an uncertain future ahead, both of them are happy, just living in the present. In the weeks that follow, the couple soaks up every bit of their domestic dream life. Naoto running the kitchen, Satsuki handling everything else around the house. Naoto suddenly remembers Tamayo's very stern warning not to get too carried away with Satsuki and accidentally start expanding the family, which makes him want to disappear into the floor. At work, Naoto gets treated like a basic prep cook, doing nothing but the simplest tasks. Because of that, he's terrified he won't get the training he needs to become a real chef. Becoming self-sufficient and being able to support Satsuki is the #1 priority in his life. Meanwhile, Satsuki prepares the house for her future husband's return from work, mops the floors, fills the bathtub, and ends up completely soaked in the process. That night, when Naoto comes home, things get heated in the bedroom, and he has to consider whether Tamayo's advice applies to the current situation or not. The next morning at school, Satsuki is feeling off, and the class nerd Abe overhears her admitting she missed her cycle this month. He becomes absolutely convinced that a mini Naoto is on the way, and immediately takes this breaking news to Tokuya, who promises to investigate. When the boys meet up later, They fill Naoto in on Satsuki's condition and the possible new family member. Naoto goes into full panic mode and rushes home. Satsuki has a fever, but wakes up to find Naoto by her side. She takes the opportunity to troll him, stripping off her shirt and asking him to wipe down her sweaty back. While he does, Naoto brings up that it was Takuya who told him, and wonders out loud why someone as good-looking as Takuya has never dated anyone. Satsuki says she knows the reason. She accidentally saw a message on his phone. She believes he has a girl in his heart, and that even after a breakup, he never managed to move on. A few days later, the group meets up at the beach, and Naoto makes it very clear to everyone that he and Satsuki are definitely not adding any new members to the family. Satsuki, fully owning it, announces they're keeping things to kissing only until graduation, which makes both Abe and Takuya immediately regret ever asking. They earned that. Later, Takuya tells Naoto he's been looking for his ex, Aki, who broke up with him after a year together when he found out she was still seeing someone else. He wants closure with his first love, and to know she's okay, so he can finally move on. He thinks back on their relationship from 3 years ago with a kind of bittersweet fondness, her bubbly personality, and, well, her proportions. Determined to get one last look, Takuya searches for her all day without success. But just as he's about to give up, he spots her walking along the beach with her daughter. She's genuinely happy to see him after 3 years and tells him she left the toxic guy and married someone else. She thanks him for the time they shared, even if it was only a year. Seeing her genuinely happy gives Takuya the closure he needed, and he finally feels ready to turn the page. Meanwhile, Yukari is blowing up fast after landing a lead role in a TV series. One day, Naoto finds Shimada waiting after his shift, begging him to cheer Yukari up because she's been really down. The two of them go to her place, where Naoto learns that Yukari has a kissing scene coming up in the show, and doesn't want it to be her first real kiss. Deep down, it's all an elaborate plan Yukari cooked up to get Naoto there, and ask him to be her first kiss, so she'd have at least one meaningful memory. Naoto can't believe she's still going for it, and gently turns her down one more time. Poor Yukari. The next morning, Naoto and Satsuki go to her adoptive brother's wedding, where she struggles to figure out what to say to congratulate the couple. Naoto suggests she write her thoughts down on paper first to sort out her feelings before delivering a speech. Later, Naomi thanks them both for coming, because the only reason he ever met Yayoi in the first place was because of Satsuki's efforts to rebuild ties with the family. That night, Satsuki opens up to Yayoi about her fears, saying she's scared to marry Naoto because she can't picture herself as a mother or part of a family. Naoto overhears from nearby, and later reassures her, saying her fears are completely valid and there's absolutely no rush. He also suggests she stay at the inn for a few more days to reconnect with her parents, and she agrees. Meanwhile, he goes back to Tamayo's and invests more time actually getting to know her, spending real time with his aunt and with Suzushiro. He thinks back on what Naomi told him at the inn, that Satsuki feels like an alien because she has no love whatsoever for her biological mother, and that's probably where her fear of having her own family comes from. The following night, when he picks Satsuki up at the train station, the two of them end up completely soaked by the rain. Naoto apologizes for bringing up starting a family so soon, and reveals that his own mother had a terrible relationship with her family, which is what drove her to run away from home after getting married. Satsuki feels a little less alone, knowing she's not the only one who doesn't feel any warmth toward her biological mom. And Naoto promises that as long as his future family includes her, he'll be happy. He admits he was more nervous having this conversation than he was when he asked her to be his girlfriend. Satsuki squeezes him tight, feeling his heart going absolutely haywire against her ear. A few days later, Makina shows up at Naoto's job, and he's genuinely happy to hear she decided to stay and chase becoming a top athlete at school. Character arc unlocked. Later that day, Shimada and Yukari come in to make a reservation for the wrap party for the TV series. Naoto brings up the kiss scene that had Yukari so stressed, and Shimada reveals it was all drama for nothing. The kissing scene was with Yukari's pet dog. Yukari apologizes for the desperate attempt to score a kiss, and even invites Satsuki to the party. Meanwhile, a very energetic Suzushiro sprints to Takuya's flower shop, visibly trembling with nerves. Out of nowhere, she blurts out that she has a crush on him and asks him to just stay her friend until she turns 18. Takuya can hear the sound of sirens from miles away. He quietly hands her a small potted flower to take home. Suzushiro goes straight to plant it in the garden. From a distance, a guy named Sho watches the whole thing, and later confesses to a friend that he has feelings for Suzushiro and wants to ask her out. But with Takuya as competition, his spirit is completely crushed. Poor dude didn't even get started and already feels like he lost. Back at Naoto's job, a co-worker asks why he picked this field. Naoto says he needs to be able to support his future wife. The co-worker absolutely roasts him in response, pointing out that with his current skill level and emotional instability, he'd barely be able to support himself. That motivates Naoto to go all in on the kitchen, and he becomes determined to get his professional chef's license. Meanwhile, Tamayo wakes up and nearly has a heart attack finding Satsuki in the house. She showed up to have lunch. Naoto rushes home terrified that Satsuki will activate gremlin mode and scare Tamayo off, but when he walks in, everyone is peacefully eating dinner together. Not a single conflict in sight. An actual miracle. Later, as Tamayo heads out for work, Naoto gets emotional and thanks her for everything, especially for looking after Suzushiro whenever he wasn't around. But being emotionally blocked appears to be hereditary in this family. Tamayo just says she'll always be there when they need her. No nonsense, but present. Meanwhile, Suzushiro shows Satsuki the garden, where tall sunflowers are blooming, which immediately reminds Satsuki of the garden she destroyed when she was little. She apologizes to Suzushiro, who accepts with a smile, even though she doesn't actually remember it. A few days later, the group heads to the beach to make some new memories. While Suzushiro slow roasts herself under the sun, having heard rumors that Takuya has a thing for tanned girls, Naoto asks Satsuki to close her eyes. She starts wondering if he's finally about to put a ring on her finger. But when she opens her eyes, it's a watch on her wrist. And honestly, she says, she prefers it this way. Then Naoto proposes for the near future, and Satsuki says yes. On the train ride back, Satsuki and Suzushiro fall asleep on either side of Naoto, and Satsuki dreams of her and Naoto back in the sunflower field, but this time she finally reaches him. And that's a wrap. If you're into anime recaps like this one, drop a comment down below. I read every single one. Check out this other video too, you're gonna love it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.